Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the studio. It's good to see you. Happy Monday. I'm just double checking audio. It looks like we're live, but there was that one time, and now I'm gun shy, that then there wasn't any audio in my video. So, do I have audio now? Let's go find out, shall we? Right, there was that one time. Okay, we're good. I do not want to have to do this again. That doesn't make for a good start to my Monday. So we're ready to go. It is week 2 of January, you guys, and everybody has class this week. So nothing funny going on in the schedule. Regardless, let me scoot over a little bit. Regardless of what class you attend, what class you are registered for, you have class this week. Now, there is a note down here. I want to make sure people know. So this is next Monday, the 19th. It's Martin Luther King Day, which means a lot of the schools are out. We do not have preschool classes at Flatwoods. Liberty doesn't have preschool classes at Mondays, so it's not a big deal. But there are no preschool fundamentals or toddler art and play class next Monday in Flatwoods because of Martin Luther King Day. Our drawing classes, our multimedia classes, our homeschool drawing, our homeschool multimedia, those all still meet. They are 4-time-a-month classes, so we don't have the luxury of taking that day off. Because if we did, we wouldn't be able to get you 4 classes. So we want to be able to, get you what you pay for. So we still have classes next Monday for Martin Luther King Day unless you're in these preschool classes. Okay. I do want to point out, since it is the first video of, it's the second video of the new year, and we have a lot of new people. If you're ever wondering how to find your schedule, you can access a class calendar that is specifically populated for you. If you log into your Sawyer account and you go to my account and then you go to calendars, it'll give you a calendar of your classes that you registered for. That information is on the class listing. So when you actually registered, there's a little section that says dates, and you can click it and it pops open a calendar and then tells you which ones are on and which ones are off. Most people don't see that because there's also a lot of other information happening on there. But so if you didn't see that and when you registered, you didn't put those dates in your calendar, and now you're like, oh crap, Allison, where do I find that information? You're going to go into your Sawyer account and there's a calendar there just for you. You can even connect that calendar to your Google Calendar or to your iCalendar, whatever digital calendar system you normally use. You could also obviously write them down if you're a paper calendar person. So you have access to that information. And then, of course, in the weekly videos, we try to remind you. Okay. All right. Let's go through all of our different classes this week. So our preschool fundamentals class, you guys, last week, it was Wild Things Week. We read Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak, and we made crowns because that's what Max wears, right, in the story. And we practiced our terrible roars and our gnashing of our teeth, and we showed our terrible claws, and we practiced rolling our eyes. You're welcome, parents. And we had a wild rompus. So we also drew some fantasy landscapes on black construction paper with chalk pastels, which is amazing because it looks like the chalk pastels are glowing. And it's a great way to make it like a night fantasy landscape. So that was our last week's fundamentals. I got something funny going on in my green screen and it's distracting. You never know with technology. And then this week we read Freight Train by Donald Cruz. And we're going to do some stamping in order to make our own train. And I love that because it allows us to make something concrete, so not something abstract, an actual train. But it doesn't require drawing skills because anytime we do something that's like stamping or collaging, we're just placing things like we would in a puzzle. So we'll make our own trains on big pieces of paper, and then what's our arrival? Hang on, I think that's it. There is an arrival, but I don't remember what it is. So, and the Freight Train book is really fun because it works with colors and shapes and different things. And then we'll go play in the dark again. So the preschool creative PlayStation room is blacked out and has a bunch of glowing stuff. So if you see stuff on Instagram stories and you're like, why are they doing art in the dark? Because that's usually a party theme. January is the only month where we do that in the preschool classroom as well. And then it'll switch up a little bit in the 3rd week, but we will talk about that next week. For my multimedia classes, it is acrylic paint month. This is our K-3 class. I did not bring any artwork with me from the K-3 classes, and that is because, you guys, they are ginormous. They are poster-sized pieces of paper. If you saw any social media from last week, I tried really hard to get the pictures up on stories. The teachers do a really great job, or the admins from that night or day, of taking pictures and getting those to me. And then as soon as I get them and have a free moment, I edit and then get them up so you can see those. They are not always in chronological order. Sometimes it just depends on when I downloaded them to my phone and then uploaded them to Lightroom and then downloaded. So, um, but there's great pictures. So if you saw any of them, you saw we worked on the floor, we worked on the tables. This week we'll do a lot of working on the walls, where we'll actually put up our paintings on the walls and work on a vertical surface. These things are massive. The artist here is using a I'm gonna say credit card. They're not really credit cards usually, although some of them might be. Usually they're hotel keys because my amazing parents save them for me when they travel, and so I get new paintbrushes all the time, you guys. And we use these hotel keys or old gift cards or credit cards, debit cards that, are expired. And we use them as scrapers. And they're really great for applications like this to move paint on a wide surface. If we were to use paintbrushes for this, um, we two things happen. One, we'd have to have really big paintbrushes. And while we do have about like 1-inch paintbrushes, those really aren't big enough. Like to paint this surface, you'd want a big one. And we don't have those kind of brushes because very rarely do we need those kinds of brushes. The other thing about a big paintbrush is when you load it up with lots of paint and then you use it, the bristles hold a lot of paint, which is exactly what you want when you're painting a big surface. But then when you go to wash it, a lot of that paint goes down the drain. We end up wasting a lot of paint. The cards allow us to move a lot of paint over a surface in a thin layer and not waste it. So we're not washing it down the drain, which is better for the environment and better for my expenses. So we use these scraper tools to get our backgrounds done, and that is the first step in our giant abstract paintings. So lots of good things happening here in this week's classes. Like I said, we will switch to brushes. We're going to have a conversation about organic versus geometric shapes. We're going to look at some of those same art examples we looked at from last week, and with the lens of what's a geometric and what's an organic shape. How do we identify those? How do we position them on the canvas? How did this artist choose to align their composition? And then the kids will make decisions and choices and add shapes to their picture using acrylic paints. So each week that they come is a different layer in their acrylic painting. So next up is shapes. For my 4th and 5th in our homeschool classes, so I did bring some examples, although not a lot to show here, but I did want you to see the scale that we're working on. So these are canvas panels. Sometimes we work on panels and sometimes we work on like a stretched canvas. The nice thing about this is I like the panels for this project because we are going to be doing some drawing on them, and this way they're not like if you're pushing with a pencil, it's not bowing. So it's nice and firm and soft and hard. Most of our people will draw with either chalk pastels to draw out their pet portraits, or because our acrylic painting is like slick, right, and plasticky, because that's what acrylic is. Here's another example of a background. We can actually use a washable marker on this, and then if we make a mistake, we just wipe it off. It just goes away. So we'll be doing, this is the background. This was step 1, was to get our background painted. That's what these artists are doing over here, is painting their background. I know a lot of the ones that I saw in Plotwoods had gradients done on theirs. Most of our ones in Liberty are solid colors. So we did get those painted. And then in this week's class, we will be drawing our portrait and getting the base coat of color down for our animal. Remember, these are our pet or animal portraits. So your child will choose, if they're in this class, will choose their subject. Not everybody's painting the same giraffe or the same dog or the same lion or the same axolotl. I don't know what you're choosing. Whatever it is, we're doing a portrait. So we're trying to learn what a portrait is, which is, from your chest up. And we're getting a reference image for that. Once we have our reference image, they will draw out their main shape. We're going to work on getting it nice and big, right? Kind of having good balance between our negative space, which is our background, and our positive space, which is our subject. and then and getting it so that it's, you know, in a composition that is a portrait. And then once we do that, we're going to squint our eyes and we're going to look and we're going to see what is the main color of our giraffe or of our panther. I don't know. And we're going to paint that color, the whole thing. We're not going to get bogged down by details, or lights or darks or shadows or texture or what little itty bitty thing goes in an eyeball. We're just going to get a base color of that animal down. Okay. And then from there, then we'll work on all the details. We'll work on shading, you know, we'll work on where the highlights are. We'll work on like all the texture, right? Because most of our animals have some fur or scales or something. And so we got to get some texture in, and then we have to get, of course, all the fun details, which is where everybody wants to start. That's not where we're going to start. So this week is drawing. And for some of our kids, that is going to be really easy. And they just like whoop, 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 and they're done. And then for some of our kids, that is a sticking point that they really struggle with. And our teachers have some good tips and tricks up their sleeves to help our artists who struggle with that. A lot of times it's our perfectionists that are struggling with that. So we're gonna work with those kids individually. But if your kid comes home and they did not get their drawing done, it took them an hour and they still didn't get it done, it's okay. It's okay. Everybody makes art at a different pace. But if they're that kiddo who needs a little bit more time, or maybe they need some more one-on-one, that's what those makeup times are for. So your instructor might talk to you, or if the instructor can't talk to you, it might be the admin who's in the lobby might talk to you, or maybe your kid will tell you, hey, the teacher said I need to sign up for a makeup so I can get back on pace with the kid, with the other people, or that's what that time is for. So Liberty, it happens on Wednesdays. Flatwoods, it happens on Fridays. You sign up, you tell us when you're coming, and we will be ready for you. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, you can always send me an email. Okay. But we do know that this is the point where some kids get this part really fast where they draw and have no problem and they move right back onto painting. And for some kids, that's a little bit of a like they hit a wall. And that's okay. We'll work them through it. Okay. All right. For our 6th, 7th, and our 8th, 12th. Oh, back on that 4th and 5th, really quick. So if your kid is doing a giraffe, let's say, I have a picture of a giraffe that I can see from here, and that's why I keep thinking of it. If your kid's doing a picture of a giraffe, we can find photos of giraffes on like Canva or Google Images for them to use as a reference. That's not a problem. If your kiddo is doing a picture of Fluffy the dog who lives at your house and is a very specific, loving breed of dog, and this is the dog you want to do, not just any old German Shepherd, then then we need a picture of Fluffy so that they can work from a reference image. Okay, and you can email that to us. There's a Google form linked into the video where you can send that, and we'll get them printed. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Put this down. 6th, 7th, and 8th, 12th. So these guys are working on altered images. So their last week's class was all about understanding the project. We looked at some examples of contemporary artists who do this kind of work. And then you can see they're searching through their magazines for an image that really inspires them that it will add to or alter. So this one goes this way. I picked out a couple just to show you. So they got them glued down to their boards. So you'll notice their boards are a little bit smaller. That is because magazines are smaller. Because this is not a collage project. So one thing we didn't want was to have multiple pieces from magazines. We wanted one magazine and then you alter that image. We'll do collage projects when we get to mixed media. So that's why their canvases are the size of magazines. So this is their little canvas board. And they got these glued down either with Mod Podge or spray adhesive. Here's another really great example. It has a lot of green on it. Hopefully you can see. That's a fun one. I can't wait to see. And then here's one more. I just grabbed really quick off the drying rack. There's a little bit of now that it's stuck down where they can clean up their edges and work on some craftsmanship. But their biggest thing that they'll be doing this week is deciding what do they cover up completely, because we'll use acrylic paint to do that. What do they alter, and what do they keep as is? And what do they add on their own? So lots of great decisions happening for our altered images artworks. Okay, creative explorations. So our stations changed for January. So last week was the first week that we had these stations. We had acrylic painting out in a mini format. for the gallery. That is a not washable paint. It's the same stuff the Multimedia Class is using. So please make sure you're wearing art clothes to the studio when you come for creative explorations. Our art history focus was Monet. So we have lots of different art examples from Monet, but the most famous, of course, is water lilies. And we have a little info sheet on Monet, as well as a coloring page where they can read, like, engage with the water lilies while reading about Monet. There's an invitation to make paper snowflakes, which is forever a favorite because who doesn't like chopping up paper in little bits? And then a collaborative vertical surface was a winter landscape. I taught Liberty with Miss Grace. Grace does most of the work, but I know we did not do the winter landscape because after we had the room set up the way we had it set up, I was like, do I really want to put out the water bin with all the glowing water from preschool? And the only place for it was under the winter landscape. So next week we'll move the room around so we can fit everything. But it was done. It's on the wall in the pictures, but there was just no paint in front of it because that's where the water was. We had Play-Doh instead of black and white. We went with the neon glowing at Liberty because that's what we had, and we'll have black and white for week 3 because that's what the fundamentals is using. But right now we have neon glowing under black light, and then the shadow tracing, which is always fun to be able to build and trace. I know that was a favorite at the Platwood studio because I saw all the pictures that Miss Jackie sent me. So these stations will be around for 2 more weeks, and then we will flip them and we'll be ready for February. For our Drawing 101 kiddos, now I brought some journals to show. Let me get to it. Of course, they're on the bottom. So our Drawing 101 kiddos, last week they made machines. So we used our powers of observation and we looked at kitchen utensils. So, I mean, I brought in my potato ricer and my turkey baster and like the lemon squeezer, you know, like that you use for citrus. And then like just spatulas and whisks and that kind of stuff. And their job was to draw those items and then reconfigure them into something that is a machine, something that has moving parts and maybe does a task. And so there was a lot of building and imagination as well as observational drawing skills. A lot of like, how do you convey movement in your drawing? So these were some examples from this class. This is from the Wednesday night class here. And you can see this one actually goes over the page, but look at that whisk down there. Can't you tell that it, right here? Can't you tell that it, oh, and this is like not a dough hook, but it goes on the mixer and it's a little spiral thing. How fun is that? So it was a really engaging lesson. The kids had a lot of fun with it. I'm really proud of their ability to draw things to draw things with texture and detail, and then also to use those lines to convey movement. This week's class for our 101s, they're going to be doing still life. So we're still doing observational stuff, and the still life is of winter gear. So boots, hats, scarves, lots of texture here. They're going to use oil pastels to create the still life and then to draw those items. So we'll probably get out viewfinders for our kids who need to like pare down their still life. But if they want to draw the whole thing, they sure can. For our 102 classes, so our 102 illustrative, right? This is all about the outside world. In December, we did a whole bunch of interior spaces and we learned the rules of linear perspective. And now we're outside and we're learning the rules of atmospheric perspective and how we create a world outside. Now, unlike realistic drawing, illustrative drawing works from pictures in our brain. And so this is where I struggle because I don't practice that skill. So I don't have those in my brain. I am forever amazed by people who do. And so they worked on fleshing out a world. And for a lot of our kids who are in illustrative classes, they have worlds. They're like one. And so we drew our world from a big zoomed out map view. We learned a lot about symbolism. We learned a lot about like line weight. This was a good lesson for our kids who haven't been with us since September when we did like the line weights and the cross hatching and the stippling and the scrumbling and all of that stuff, because this is an easier subject matter. which allows us to dig into a little bit more of those technical skills. So a lot of planning, a lot of communicating, a lot of imagining. When we get into next week's lesson, we're going to take this same world, right? And we're going to zoom in. And so rather than seeing the whole world, we might zoom in on like one little part of it. So up here, we've got like a forest. Here's a really good forest of evergreen trees. And we could zoom in on that particular environment. We're not standing in it. We're still floating above it, like maybe at like a bird's flying in view, not a bird's eye view, but coming in, like the camera is panning into that part of the world. And that's what we're going to draw. Okay. So you might see like buildings from above, or you might see trees. You're going to see more details than in a map, and it's going to be more of a, like what you consider a realistic, but still very like illustrative in style, but realistic in viewpoint. And then for our realistic kids, so I got to show you those, they're doing their unit on figures. So in the past, last year was the first year we split them apart. But before that, we would do figure and portrait in 1 month, and we decided that was a little too squished together. So this is our figure month. And next month in February will be our portrait month. And so for our figure month, we're doing the whole body, and really trying to understand the human figure. So they have their review of the skeletal system and the musculature. And really it's just understanding that the bones are armature, right? And then the muscles are shape. And so, we only bend where there are joints, and understanding, what is the ratio for most people, and this is all generalities, but from shoulder to elbow and from elbow to wrist, so that we get all of those proportions right. What's the length of our arm compared to the length of our legs? Where do our hands hit on our body? It's lower than you think. All right. So they looked at photographs of dancers, and then they drew those. Some of our kids, pretty good at it. Some of ours really struggled. And I'm going to show you something, and I want you to know, I want you to see how much work went into this. You're not going to see a lot of marks that are finished, but you're going to see the work, hopefully. Can you see how many eraser lines are in there? This artist worked really, really, really hard. I know that it was probably an hour's worth of work that went into this. And that was a lot of work. A lot of learning happened there. Okay. Here's another great example. And one more. Okay. So the human figure is so tricky, you guys. But this is good. Like, it's like eating your vegetables. It's so good for you. So there's a lot of work, and there's a lot of learning that happens there, regardless of what the finished product looks like. These are lessons, you guys. I obviously have a degree in art. My major is just visual arts. However, my honors thesis was in life drawing, which is the study of the human figure, nudes. Okay. I benefit from this exercise. This is good for me. I should go sit in on these classes and do them as well. It is a lifelong learning that you do. Okay. And in this next week, actually, they're doing one of my all-time favorite lessons. And I am tempted to just come in and take the class because I love it. So this week in our realistic kids classes, they're still doing from the figure, but rather than working from photographs, they are working from life. And they will take turns being a model, and we will do quick gesture poses. So nothing more than a minute or two. And the kids will get to get up, hold a pose, and then everybody will draw them, and then they will sit down. And I mean, it is so fun. I could do that for hours. Maybe I will. All right, for our 103 kiddos, it's week 2. So for a lot of them, last week was about wrapping their brain around the challenge that they have, coming up with their ideas and their composition, sourcing their reference images if they need it, and then doing some thumbnail sketches and planning. For our 103 illustrative kiddos, they are looking at the art of Dr. Seuss and identifying the characteristics that make his art his art. What are his styles? What are his attributes? And then they're designing their own animal type characters, so not people characters, but animal characters, and then drawing in that style. They're also looking a lot at the background of Dr. Seuss. He has a very unique kind of patterning repetition that happens in his background. So that's what they're doing for our 10 realistic 103s. They're doing a modern still life. So we looked at some contemporary artists. I'm trying to think. Not Sorry Art and Alleganza Art on Instagram are the two that I printed reference images and had a slideshow for them because those are two female artists that I follow that I think are amazing. We actually have Sari's book here at the Liberty Studio on color theory and modern still life. So we're going to create our own still life of images that are contemporary. So think bowl of fruit, only more, updated, right? So not vase of flowers, not bowl of fruit, something that screams 21st century, right? And so we're going to create that, and then they will draw it in a not hyper realistic, but a realistic style with highly saturated colors using alcoholic markers. All right. Only one slide for housekeeping. Usually I break it into 3, but that's okay. I didn't do it this time. Let's go through housekeeping. Weekly makeups. This is a reminder, just especially for those of you who are new, that if you miss your class for any reason, and you do not have to justify it to me, okay? You were sick. You forgot. You didn't feel like it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, okay? Regardless, you can come in for a makeup. You don't need to tell me why. If you want to, that's fine. But there's no qualifying standards. If you miss your class, there are makeups available for you for Liberty. If you're in preschool, the makeup happens on Monday morning, like 10, I don't know when. It's Monday. It's on the webpage, okay? If you're in Flatwoods, the makeups for preschool happen on Thursday. If you're in any of the homeschool or evening classes, Liberty has their makeups on Wednesday nights and Flatwoods has theirs on Friday nights. They are by reservation, meaning we're here, but we ask that you tell us that you're coming because we have 200-300 pieces of art in our closet, and if you just show up, now we have to search for it, and there's an audience, and there's pressure, and we like to take our time to locate your guys' art and set it up and plan and figure out how the night's going to go and make sure we have all your supplies out. And if we need to Voxer or text your teacher and ask questions, we can do that so that whoever's running makeups that night is prepared for you. Okay. So do make a reservation. We ask, there's on the forum, it says for same day reservations, whatever the leeway is. I think there's a cutoff time. And that just allows us to make sure that we're ready to go for the makeup session. Okay. But you can make those on our website. And if you're like, where do I go to do that? There's a couple places to find the link. One is on every single web page. If you scroll to the bottom on the footer section, there's a link to makeups. It's also in your confirmation email. So if you registered online, you got an email that was like, you're in. In the additional notes section, there's a link for the makeups. And then also, Sarah and I both try to send a "we missed you" email. We're not 100% on it, but we really do try. It gets worse as the semester goes on and things get nutty for us. But you'll usually get an email from us that it's like, here, make your makeups for your reservation. Okay. So if you missed your class, we do invite you to come in for makeups. Now, that said, if you're in a multimedia class, if you say miss a class on Monday, you don't come to makeups on Wednesday, and then you come to class on Monday again, your instructor's going to try to get you caught up. And most times they're really good at it. So they're going to try to get you caught up, and then you may not need that makeup session. So, if you didn't come to the makeup right after the missed class, then we're going to try to get you caught up, and we'll communicate with you if you still do need a makeup session. Okay. And that's what the email says as well. For drawing people, it's not as big a deal. 103s obviously are project-based. I know a lot of our 103s come in for makeups even when they don't miss classes because they just need additional time, which is always fine. But for my drawing people, that your makeup can happen anytime because the lessons are standalones. And so whenever you want to come and do that lesson, you absolutely can. And if you don't, you're like, I can't do one more thing. We missed it. It's gone. It's forever off of our brains. We are not going to keep a backlog of makeups. It's okay too. Okay. All right. Upcoming special events. So this is just a note. And we've got a few things coming up. One is a Valentine's Day, like makerspace. And then the other thing is the spring breaks. So there's a whole bunch of spring break camps. So Valentine's is registering now. Spring break starts next week or something. I mean, spring break doesn't start next week, but the registration starts next week. So if you want to look at those, they're up there for you. And then this is just an understanding of our timeline. So our spring semester that we are in right now from January ends in May. So if you are signed up for classes, whether you are paying monthly or by semester, your enrollment goes until May. We actually, because of where Memorial Day is, we do have to meet after Memorial Day one more time for my drawing and my multimedia people. We will do that as an open studio, which is kind of how we do the Thanksgiving week and the Christmas week as well, just because we know attendance is going to be lower because the schools are probably going to be done. But we'll still have one more class in that last week of May, but we will not have classes in June. And so our regular classes that you're in right now, they take a break for June, July, and August, and we have what we call summer. So there's a whole bunch of summer programming that we do. It's very a la carte. So you kind of like pick and choose and build your own summer. It is not something where you sign up and then you're here every week. It's very different because we know people travel and you go on vacation, and maybe June doesn't work because of summer school, but July does, or vice versa, right? Maybe July doesn't work because you're going to be traveling. I don't know. But so the summer programming is dripping out slowly this week. So if you're interested in the sneak peek, check it out. Don't feel pressure because it all goes live next Tuesday, and then everything will be available. So if you're like, I can't right now, so it's okay. The sneak peek is just something fun that we do. It also forces me to get small amounts of the catalog up on the website rather than waiting until the very last minute. So it's really for me. But otherwise, everything will go up next week, and it'll all be on the website for you to look at, but not register. We don't actually start registration until March, so you have lots of time to just sit with it, talk to friends, talk to your kids, compare your calendars, make a plan, ask questions, all that stuff. All right, so no pressure. No pressure. Everybody just, it's going to be okay. So that's what's going on with summer. If you have any questions about that, give me a holler. I think that's it. All right. That's all I got, you guys. Let's see. Yeah. All right. I hope everyone has a great rest of their Monday, because this video is a little bit later than usual, but hope it's a great Monday. Hope it's a great week. If you